So the last discovery method we have to talk about in detail would be the remembering of previous controllers that the AP was associated to or was in the mobility group of the AP. So once an AP actually joins up to a controller, it will remember that controller on subsequent reboots. If there were additional controllers in the same mobility group as the controller it was associated to, it will also remember those controllers as possible ones to join up to on a reboot. With this one, there's really no configuration needed. The AP does this automatically for you. To find out what it's remembering in the CLI of the AP, you can do the show CapWeb client config. You have to scroll down a little bit and look for lines that start with configured switch. So switch 1, switch 2, however many it knew, and then the IP address of the switch that it's remembering, or the controller in this case. Now, sometimes it can be a bit of a pain, especially if you're trying to lab a bunch of different stuff up. Your AP might be remembering controllers it was on, but you don't want it to join up to that controller anymore. You want it to use these other methods. Well, in order to get rid of that information, you need to enter the clear CapWeb private config command. You'd have to do this from enable mode. This is going to make the AP forget pretty much everything. It forgets its name, forgets any primary, secondary, tertiary controllers, anything remembered about previous controllers, its mode, everything. It pretty much just puts it back to more of a factory default kind of setting before it's ever joined up to a controller. So that's the way to kind of flush out all the old stuff, start it up fresh, and then ideally it's joining up to the controllers that you're newly advertising to it. So let's try to show you this on the console. All right, so on LAP 4 and 5, these are the ones that we use the IP helper trick on. So they should be currently associated to WLC3. We do a show CapWeb client config command. We scroll down and we see, okay, right now it just knows about the one because there aren't any other controllers in the mobility group of WLC3, but it's remembering it. So it always knows the controller that it's currently on. So if I go ahead, enable, and if you notice, we also did not have any primary, secondary, tertiary controllers that it knows about. And if I reload this guy, and while it's reloading, let's go ahead and we'll take away the IP helper command on its VLAN. No IP helper address 10.10.120.40. We'll even take away the forward protocol command, no IP forward protocol, UDP 5246. So at this point, it has no normal dynamic methods for discovery. DNS isn't configured, option 43 or option 46 is not configured, the layer 3 broadcast won't work, but yet, when it finally reboots and comes back up, even though it doesn't discover new controllers, it's going to remember the controller was on, and we'll see it actually attempt to join up to that controller. So this is typically where, when you don't want that to happen, it can get really frustrating because if the controller you don't want it to join up to seems to be the more preferred controller, it's going to keep on going back to that one over and over. So that's where we do that clear CapWeb private config in order to forget any previous controllers it was currently on. And if you see an access point actually attempting to join up to a controller that you're not advertising to it, it's probably because of this. All right, so I'm up. Haven't really started the discovery process yet, but if I do a show CapWeb config, we see it still remembered that switch there. So even though it hasn't discovered the switch via any other means, it remembers it. So we see it in that line there. Because it's in the line there, it will attempt to reach out to it. And after that, it'll join and everything will be happy again. But we can see, it's not doing DNS resolution. We won't see a line for DHCP option 43, and I took out the IP forward protocol command. So this is really the last thing that it has to do, and there it goes. It joins up to it just because it remembered it from before.